Good morning, welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are bothering me and you and anybody else around me. Okay, so today is the 23rd. I actually made a video on the 19th and I never posted it because I screwed up royally. My oldest sister's birthday is on the 29th of August, and it was the 19th of August, and I had claimed that, you know, throughout the whole entire video that her birthday was on the 19th. Well, the fact of the matter is my other sister, Ella, her birthday is the 19th of October, and I got them confused because sometimes I get up pretty early to do these things. But anyways, I'm debating whether to post it or not. I felt that it was a really good video, but I just, the way I make these, it's off the cuff. There's absolutely 100% no editing. God, I got poison ivy. I never get poison ivy, but somewhere along the lines I did. But there's absolutely no editing in these videos for Ag Talking Raw, hence the raw part. So if I say it, it's on there. But I really didn't want, because my mom and dad watched this, I really didn't want them to know that I had screwed up so royally on my sister Wendy's birthday. She had passed away in 2014. So anyway, if it was Ella, I wouldn't care. You know, if it was Holly, I wouldn't care. But it was Wendy, and she's passed away, so I really care. Anyway, that being said, I'm not even going to touch on any of those topics other than the topic of this fucking weather. Excuse my language. Yes, this fucking weather. It's driving me nuts. Oh, God. It was supposed to be sunny yesterday, so I sent my dad out to attempt to mow some hay over on a farm that is traditionally sandier soil and drier. So I sent him. He calls me up. He says, I'm coming back. I'm spinning my wheels all the way across this damn field. So, of course, he couldn't do anything. So he came home. No mowing hay. I have approximately 100 acres of hay that is laying on the ground now for the duration of time that William has been alive. William's been alive for many months now, but since he was born. And this hat is really screwing up things. And I might have that turned down because I was holding William. These lights, I need better lighting to come right at my face here while I do this. But anyway, you get to see my shiny bald head, which I hit my head. Timothy says I got lines on the top of my head. I hit my head on that baler while I was working on it. But anyway, so I've got about 100 acres of hay that's laying on the ground. The grass is growing up through it, and it's like, well, okay, now what? What am I going to do now? How am I going to get this stuff? It is wet as Noah's Ark should be floating by here pretty soon. That's how wet it is. And I know there's a lot of guys out in the world. I shouldn't say out in the country, but out in the world that could use a little bit of what I've been dealing with for the last, I don't know, 35 days. I mean, it's the 23rd of August. The last notable hay that I made was on the 8th of August, and that was done between raindrops. It was wet, and it's getting shipped immediately. So I have that to deal with. I made about 100 bales, but previously to that, it was the 17th of July. So essentially, I've only baled 100 bales in exactly in about 35 days or so. So it's ridiculous. Man, is it ridiculous. The equipment's all ready to go, just about. I mean, I do have a couple of hay rake issues that I have to address, and I'll probably be doing that today after I get back from the doctor's office. Me and Teresa are taking William in to have his little pedia checkup. I guess they're going to stick a thermometer up his ass and do whatever they do to little babies to torture them, just to see how heavy he is. I can tell you he's growing. He is definitely growing. You look at him and you can just see the growth. It's crazy. It's like going to a cornfield today and then skipping 2 days in hot, damp weather, and boom, you come back and it's 4 feet tall. That's how that kid's growing. All right. So, that being said, yeah, I've just been doing modifications and upgrades to this baler. I've been taking pictures of it on my Instagram. So it's One Lonely Farmer at Instagram, ONELONLEYFARMER, Instagram. And you can see what is going on with it there. I did a live stream yesterday for a couple of hours while I was welding on the plunger, or not the plunger, the bale chamber extensions. I extended the bale chamber by 2 feet. Yes, a full 2 feet. And I may even go as far as to adding maybe a foot of extension on the back of that baler too. 6 inches would be awesome, but like on the floor and the top, just to add that much more pressure. I just want some pressure. You ever say, you know what, I just want to do more with what I've got, but I'm not. I'm only going to do the sides. There's no need to do the top. It's the whole point of these things is to actually relax the bale, hold the bale together until it comes out. What happens with these balers is there's such a chunk of hay that's going in there, and they do this constantly. You see that my hand's moving back and forth. Well, what you want it to do is this. So if you've got this going on, what that's doing is it's slacking the string and bang, slacking, bang, slacking, bang. And that's how you break strings. Yep. That's exactly how you break a string. So what you want to, there's 2 hay wedges in there. Jesus, this coffee's really getting me. There's 2 hay wedges in the plunger on either side. So there's 4 hay wedges. One at the very beginning, like all of the Heston balers have, and then there's one that they welded back a little ways, which will take up some of that slack. And then what I did was to weld 2 feet of diamond plate onto the back of the boards on the baler. So what that diamond plate does is actually grabs the hay as it's going through and locks it in, so it doesn't have this slapping motion. So that's what's going on with that, and I'll be making a video there today, possibly on that particular one. I'm uploading right now, or downloading from my camera right now what I'm doing. I do have brushes and other little doohickey doodad things that's got to go in there. I just got to see where I left off yesterday with this series on that 4910. What else is going on in the world? I guess there's a lot of drought in the world, depending on where you're at. Germany, France, Sweden, Denmark, Norway. I know those guys are dry as a tin fart. I know that there's parts of Canada, Saskatchewan, Alberta, up in that area, North, South Dakota, dry. Right on down. Nebraska, I guess, got hail, really bad hail, shredded 10 miles of a path that was 10 miles wide and God knows how many miles long. I heard that on the chatter, on the chatter in the world. I understand that, you're either drowning or drying up. And of course, there's a lot of people that are going to say, oh, that's geoengineering for you. Well, it could be. It could very well be. I'm not seeing the contrails anymore. Not the contrails, the chemtrails. See, there's a difference, and I got crucified by a guy on here one time by saying, oh, chemtrails. Well, I'm not psychotic, and I know the difference between a chemtrail and a contrail. I was a kid once, and when I was a kid, we never had these long, lingering lines that come off the jets. See that poison ivy? It really annoys me. Anyway, and I don't get poison ivy very often, but it's in my left hand and here. I'd like to know where in the hell I was. So a contrail is just the vapor that comes off the engine. That air is superheated as it goes through over the exhaust or through the turbofans or the turbojet engines, and then of course as it cools off, it condenses that moisture and releases it, and boom, you get this visible line of moisture, which is a contrail. Chemtrails are different. That is whatever the hell they put in those tanks that they put on those big-ass airplanes, and they fly back and forth across the sky, and you'll see this perfect line as it goes. Sometimes they puff, 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 puff across the sky, and then they just kind of spread out and get wider and wider and wider. And then it's kind of a hazy day. Now, Nikola Tesla had an idea about transmission, electricity transmission from one house to another, back in the days when Nikola Tesla was alive, that there would be no power lines, that he would be able to jump the electric from one to the other, and it would be this whole big electric ion thing. And if you wonder, now I'm talking like a psychopath here, but you ever wonder how, years ago, these devices, now I know technology increases and things get better, but these devices used to put out like 5 watts of energy. I think this phone puts out like 0.2 watts. Now, they're ridiculously low because they were claiming people had brain cancer because of the microwave radiation that was coming out of these phones. So, what they're putting in the sky is aluminum oxide, or powdered aluminum, or ionized aluminum, and that's what they spray out there. And aluminum is a superconductor. It is better than steel. It's not quite as, I guess it's not quite as good as copper, or maybe it's as good as copper, but nothing as good as gold. But we all know that gold, we're not going to go spilling up into the sky. Aluminum comes from the sand. And Alcoa, if you look at that, you can go to YouTube and look at Alcoa and how they get aluminum out of the sand. It's a very interesting video where they just pour all this aluminum oxide sand into a big drum, and they take these two probes, they turn it on, there's a jolt of electricity that goes through it, and all the molten aluminum falls out the bottom of out the bottom of this thing. It's really cool. But if you take that aluminum and you put it up in the sky, or all around us, it's a conductor, not an insulator. Air is an insulator, but the aluminum is not. That's a conductor. So if you put powdered aluminum up in the air, is that why our phones are working? I mean, this house has a steel roof on it, and when I built the thing and put that steel roof on there, I couldn't talk on the inside of the house. And if I went in the basement, nothing. But now I can go anywhere with this thing. I can go in the grain bin, and the grain bin's this big tin bin, so anywhere. I can go anywhere with these things. There's only a few spots that I know that you'll have a weak signal, but it's generally between towers, and the towers are miles and miles apart. They're not even 5 miles apart. They're miles and miles apart, and it's down in a valley. So, I'm pretty sure that could possibly be what it is. It's just my conspiracy theory. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe I'm just a stupid farmer that has no observation or no skill or anything in what goes on around us. But I know that the levels of aluminum in the air is ridiculously high. Aluminum doesn't fall from outer space. There is, dust that falls from outer space called space dust, and it does exist. I forget how many billion tons of this shit falls onto Earth in a year's time. You can look that up too. It's a fact. If you go out to your car and it's you see that dust and it doesn't seem like pollen and there's dust on your car, and maybe you don't. I don't know. It's space dust. I've heard about this. Now, I've never actually seen space dust other than bits and particles that light up the night sky, called meteorites or meteors. Meteors much larger. But anyway, I guess it doesn't affect us. I don't know if this affects us in a positive or a negative way, but I can't imagine that breathing aluminum powder is very good for us, or aluminum toxicity. Now, when I was a kid, my grandfather, he had aluminum toxicity. My grandmother cooked on all aluminum cookware. And when I was a kid, it was awesome because, not that he had aluminum toxicity, but because when he found out that he had aluminum toxicity, they threw all the aluminum pots and pans down in the ditch. Yeah, in the ditch. And those were plinking tools then. I had my .22 rifle. I shot the hell out of those pots and pans. They came up, they looked worse than Swiss cheese. They actually looked like a worn-out sponge by the time I was done shooting tens of thousands of rounds at these things. So aluminum toxicity is a thing. So if my grandfather, and he died at age 58, it wasn't a good thing. He smoked a lot. I remember the house being like this level of smoke. I was under the level of smoke, and my parents were like in a haze in the house because that's how much my grandfather smoked. But my grandmother, she lived in the same house with him, and she's 93, still kicking. So maybe there's something to it. I have no idea. Boy, that bruise. You see that bruise? Oh, that's a bit of news you didn't see. I fell off the baler. That 4910 baler, right from the top, all the way down the stairs. All the way to the bottom. I ended up like this. I was like, ow, 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 ow. And I thought I tore the skin off of my arm. I was like, God, I got to get to the hospital and get this sewed up. Because it hurt so bad. And my knee, my left foot, my right shin, my left arm, and my right arm right here is still kind of, you can see right there. That's where it got me. But you just got to be careful. Accidents do happen, and they even happen to me. So, wet feet from all the goddamn rain. And, there you go. So, haymaking is at a standstill, and that is the reason that I purchased the Heston baler. I know there's a lot of people out there like, oh my God, what happened to the Krone? What happened to the Krone? Krone's fine. Krone is perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, today I got to go to the doctor's office, but I'm going to send my boys out to clean the Krone baler off. It needs to be completely cleaned off. I can't have all that dirt and dust and shit in there, so they got the backpack blowers, and I'm going to make them clean it all off and inspect things. I do have some questions on the Hay Dog or the Plunger Dog springs. Plunger Dog springs, I replaced 3 out of the 8 on the sides. They were not completely broke, but one had just one was completely broke. That was a very top one. That'll cause a big ass ache, by the way. But the worst one to change was the one that was completely broke. I got a feeling that they changed all the others and just got to that one and said, fuck it, I'm not fixing it. Because it took a lot of cursing and swearing to get that thing out of there. And I torched one of them off. Definitely torched one of them off. It was just really not a good deal. So yeah, the Krone is fine. Everything works perfectly on it. No, I'm not changing over to Heston balers. Am I going to keep this baler? I have no idea. If I get this Heston baler rocking and rolling and everything works fine and good and well, then yeah, I'm going to keep it. What did I pay for the baler? Well, here's the deal. The person that I bought the baler off of, we couldn't come to an agreement on the price. No, we didn't. Now, I'm going to pay for the baler. The problem with the purchase price of the baler is that what it's worth and what they want. You know, if this baler was completely fixed, you know, all the little quirks and broken bits and pieces, like the plunger or the board hinge springs or hinge pins, everything, all the little things, all the bent needles that I dealt with, the new rollers in the needles that I dealt with, the new Hay Dogs and springs, plunger dogs and springs that I dealt with, the what the heck was it? The hoses, the grease lines that go to it that everybody's saying, oh, you don't want them, you don't want them, you don't want them. Well, I do want them. I'm sorry. There's a timer on that grease gun, and all you do is you just turn it. Like, oh, you'll never get enough grease in it. Yes, you do. I've had these before. New Holland. On my New Holland, I had them. They worked fine. I have it on the Krone. It works fine. I get plenty of grease. So, yeah, it's going to pump grease. And that grease is going to go into that machine, and those pieces, I'm going to have to keep an eye on them for sure. But it's, yeah, I got to keep an eye on it for sure. But it'll work. It will definitely work. I'll be okay with what I'm doing with the grease gun. So, and of course the polyline floors didn't have to be done, but it should have been done. So I did that. Straighten out. What the hell did I do? I did all kinds of stuff. Oh, the fan blower up top was not functioning properly. It took a little while to figure that one out, I tell you. Ended up, it was a broken Pioneer coupler that goes to the tractor. I mean, started up and it would flow for a little bit and then shut off. What in the hell? So finally I just told Timothy to take the end off and we'll run it back into the fill hole on the 4960 and see if that cures the problem, makes it run. Of course, he takes the one end off and I see something go flying. It was a tip out of that coupler. I was like, holy shit! And I put a new one on, boom, the thing ran perfectly fine. Cheap fix, $10, you know. Cheap fix and off it went. Only took a few hours of time to figure it out. Wiring harnesses. There were 1, 2, 3 wiring harnesses that were completely pooched. And we've got that solved. Timothy started it up. We put the computer in, mounted that, and started it up. We ran it, ran the knotters, found out that there was 3 bent needles, slightly bent. Well, actually, all the needles were bent at the very top. And I made a video of straightening those out so you understand and know what is going on with those. But so you had all the needles bent at the top, but there was one that it was out of whack. It wasn't where it belonged. And the knife arm, of all things, it would come up and the knife arm would... Now, When that thing being out of whack and that knife arm hitting it, you're going to have a lot of missed knots. And I mean, either missed knots or this thing isn't going to knot at all. It actually hit that needle so bad that it wore grooves into the needle. So me and Timothy, I stayed at the bottom in the bail chamber, and I had Timothy underneath, and he loosened, and we whacked him into place. And when I got it up through the needles or through the knotters, then that's when I realized that the top knotters, the top of the needles were bent inward. Those things are supposed to have a slight, they're either supposed to be perfectly straight. I always liked mine with a slight flare on the end. So I flared them just a tiny little bit to catch that string. But if they're bent in like this, the string can deflect off to one side or the other and causing a missed knot, or two, obviously two. Because those strings have to be together in order for it to grab in the twine disc and cut and do its thing. So that's just some of the things that I'm dealing with there. There's lighting issues. The lights are fucked. I mean, they're not even, it looks like somebody went over there with a baseball bat and kicked them off. So, you know, what do you do with a baler without lights? And you gotta fix them, and that's gonna take another day's worth of time because of the wires being chewed off by, I don't even know what they did or who did this to it, but mechanically, the baler is beautiful. Honestly, mechanically it is. It's not bulged out. It's the knife isn't bent. Oh, that's another thing. I had to replace the knife in the bottom and check the shears or the moving knives or the shears on the plunger and all these other things. So I'm just gearing up to make this thing bail, hopefully half as fast as with the Krone, and bail a bail that is heavier than what the Krone produces. I'm looking for a 1,500 to 1,800 pound bale. If I can make, now the Krone makes 1,500 pound bales all day long, but I'm looking for that 18. They call this the Heston 1 ton. I've never known anybody to consistently put 1 ton bales of dry hay out with one of these things. So I'm going to try and get close. You know, if I get to 1,800 pounds consistently, yes, that's considered, to me, considered a job well done. The other thing that wasn't on this baler, which could cause a big ass ache, is the fact that those brushes at the top of the plunger are not there. So that's that. Oh, what else can I talk about? I always have something to say. Oh, corn production. So here's the deal. The reason I bought this baler, and, you know, the second reason, or the first, I was not in the market to buy a baler. This thing just kind of fell into my lap, and I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah, and I never did finish saying what I paid for it. So anyways, after I do all this work and we figure out the you know, the value of what I have done to it for what was broken, the bolts that were in the compressor sides of it and all that stuff. I mean, I literally have over $3,000 in actual broken parts in this machine, plus the 5 days of work, 5 solid days of work that I've got into this thing. It might even be a little more than that. I think it's a good 5 solid days of work into this baler. I mean, we've worked 5 or 6 days. It might be 6. I don't know. I have to go back and look. Solid work, and it's 3 of us. Mostly at all times, it's 3 of us. There was one day that I just worked on it, or I sent the boys home and then I worked on it. But, you know, so, yeah. We'll find out. We'll get to the point where I go to the negotiating table with it, and you know, if I don't agree with what they say and they don't agree with what I say, then we either meet in the middle or I take it back. And whoever gets it from that point forward is like thrilled to death with the work that I've done. My goal is to bale hay. I mean, I just got to get through this season. And the second, you know, when I saw this baler, the first thing that goes off in my mind is corn fodder. Because corn fodder, they use at the mushroom barn. It's not a high payer. It's not like hay and straw. It is corn fodder. So, and the thing with corn fodder is it's hard on a baler if it's not done correctly. And in the past, I've baled corn fodder wrong. You know, combine it, brush hog it, rake it, bale it, and you get this wet block of corn fodder that is moldy, and it just, you know, they don't want it if it gets too wet, because the whole purpose of the corn fodder is to dry up the mix. You don't want a mix that doesn't have airflow through it and, you know, can work in the composting side of it. You need a product that actually pulls moisture into it and dries it out, and then you can add the water that is required to make the compost the proper moisture. Now, if you just take hay and straw, poultry litter, and horse manure, and all this other stuff that you put into it, cocoa hulls, cottonseed meal, all this other stuff, and then you put it together and you put water on it, and it doesn't have room for the microbes and the bacteria to do their thing and create this heat, it becomes a slow process, a slower composting process. Their whole idea or concept down there in all these composting facilities is to get this stuff composted down to a usable product as quickly as possible, to get it out into mushroom barns and the mushroom farmers so that they can get it into their doubles and get those mushrooms growing as quickly as possible. And it's just like this vicious cycle, and it goes and goes and goes and goes. So corn fodder aids in the movement of microbes that go through there. Corn cobs, corn fodder dries it out, sucks the moisture out if you get too much water in there, blah, 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 and it goes on and so forth. And I don't know the technical, because I don't make soil. I make ingredients to make soil. So that baler, when that popped up, I'm like, hey, I've been wanting to grow corn, and this will probably offset some of the fertilizer costs or even rent costs that I will incur by growing corn. I would like to have between 200 and 500 acres of corn. Yes, 200 and 500 acres of corn. So you're looking at 40 to 150 or 40 to 150,000 bushels, 120,000 bushels of corn to be sold through the facility. And yeah, I have done it before, and it's not that big a deal. I know how to do it, and the real plus is the spent compost. Spent compost will be coming to the farm hopefully starting this week. They're supposed to just start running loads up. I got to get a hold of my guy and get him to start bringing them up. And because I've got the manure spreader, if you haven't seen Instagram, I have this 20-ton Lanco manure spreader or litter spreader or compost spreader. And it's kind of an interesting looking thing. And I haven't done a review on it yet, but that's coming on the One Lonely Farmer channel. And yeah, so that's that. I'm not paying anything for the spreader. I am paying for the compost, kinda, but I'm not even going to get into that. Yes, I'm paying for the compost, but it's a whole nother deal that's just going to be touched on in another video on the One Lonely Farmer channel. Maybe, I don't even know, because the simple fact is, it's an experiment to see how far we can go with it, and I'm really looking forward to picking up another 200 to 500 acres of ground, getting this stuff on that 200 to 500 acres of ground, getting the corn in the ground. It's going to be tillage and everything. I mean, we're going to be putting these tractors through their paces, and yeah, hopefully bring a few $100,000 to the farm on top of the hay. I don't want to kill any hay. The only time I'm going to be killing hay to plant corn is if the hay is petered out and I'm done with it. That fields aren't producing. And I do have a couple of those. I do have a couple of those farms, and they're close to home. So that's the other thing. Get the corn in, get it close to home, and go for broke. But it's just going to be a lot more work. And I love work. That's the problem. I just love work. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, if there's anything you want to ask me, the comment section down below is there for that reason. And next week, or yeah, what is today? Today is what, Wednesday? Thursday. Wednesday? Thursday. What's today? Is it Wednesday? I don't even know. If it's Wednesday, then I'm a day behind. Let me see. Where the hell's my date? I know. Thursday. Holy shit, I lost a day. Alright, so it's Thursday, the 23rd. Thursday the 23rd. So look for me on Wednesday or on Sunday. I know I'm behind on these videos because I had a baby. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed to One Lonely Farmer, be sure to check that out. There's a lot of videos over there. Thanks again.